Welcome everyone to our lesson today. My name is Yuri Sokolov. I'm one of the teachers and head instructors here at Careerist. So today we'll talk about a few important things. First of all, what is Unix and what are the basic Unix commands? So why do QA engineers need to know Unix? Why this may be helpful during your interview? And we will have a pretty cool practical hands-on training today. So let's start. What is Unix? So Unix itself, it's a family of computer operating systems that derive from original AT&T UNIX OS operating system, whose development started in mid-1960s. So in mid-1960s, there was a need for, in order to create a new operating system, and which started, and it was called UNIX OS by AT&T. From that times, you can think from 1960s, the whole operating system derived into many different Unix-like systems. For example, Linux is a Unix-like or Unix-based system. Android is Unix-like system. BSD, or it's one of those Unix-like systems. macOS, so everyone who uses Apple's macOS system is also using a derivative from original Unix-based system, which was built in more than 50 years ago. Okay, PlayStation operating system is also built on Unix-like prototype. Okay, so why do we need to understand why it is important for QA engineers? So it is important for QA engineers because a lot of the programs, a lot of the settings that you may be working with as a QA engineer will be somewhat Unix based, but don't be afraid, don't get intimidated by this. It is going to be on a very minimal level. While the concept itself is somewhat ancient and somewhat complicated, in reality, it's not going to be complicated or not straightforward at all. The reason for this is that, for example, majority of the software development companies, they're using MacBooks as their main development consoles. So if you're gonna go and join the software development company, they will likely give you a MacBook to work on, which is itself a Unix-based operating system machine. So some things you have to know how to do, basic things. Okay, in some companies they will do Linux, so they will use Linux-based systems, which also correspond to the same Unix-based system of commands that we use. So let's start. Let's go over these important things that are somewhat straightforward, somewhat simple, but something that you need to learn and know. So first thing, we need to learn Unix commands, which is called a shell. So shell, it basically allows users to communicate with operating system using commands. These commands are programs which can be invoked in the command line tool. Sounds complicated, in reality it isn't. Shell, it's basically an interface for communication between the user and the computer and the system. Okay, so let's go over basic things. Where can I practice Unix commands? For MacBook, it's very simple. It's called a terminal application. So when you'll get this presentation, there's going to be a link. But in order to, let's say, if you, let's say you work with MacBook. So like I am right now, I'm working with a MacBook Pro. In order for you to invoke this command line tool, all I can do is I can go for search and I can go and look for terminal. And after I go for terminal, it's going to pop up. And this is the way how I will be transmitting my Unix commands to our Unix-based system, which is macOS. Okay, that's one thing. So for all the MacBook users or Apple users, this is the way you do it. Second thing, so when you have Windows, like how can you utilize it? How can you practice Unix commands? You can go and follow this link that we have in the presentation, which basically says this is an emulator. This is the virtual environment for Unix commands, which you can practice without installing anything on your computer, any third-party software. If you have Windows, which Windows not really a Unix-based application, it's not a very Unix-based system, but you can still practice commands here. The website's called replit.com, and you can follow the link that it's in your presentation. And after a very brief process of registration or logging in, it's free, by the way, you can come up with this particular screen. So after clicking create REPL computing, you will end up with this particular screen, and I'll show you how to use it. Okay, for now it's not important, but I'll show you how to use it later. For now, we can close it. All right, so let's discuss what can we do. Whoops, see. Let's discuss what can we do as why do we need to know Unix commands? So what are the most common application of Unix commands for software QA engineers? It's pretty straightforward, guys. Run or start programs, stop programs, create, update, rename, delete files, create, rename, move, delete directories or folders, move files between folders, browse, search, whatever. It's very basic functionalities, something that you need to know. So again, many testing activities are dependent on operating system knowledge. The best way to learn these commands is to read and simultaneously practice them. So what we're gonna do today, we're gonna practice some commands. We'll go over the commands. Why are these commands important? Because they may come up during the interview. So it is, pretty crucial for you to learn them. It's not a huge list, maybe 24 of commands, the most popular ones. Something you need to kind of like put in your head and memorize it and understand it and practice it. The best way to learn it is by practicing it. So today, that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so let me move back to here, and I will invoke my terminal and we will start practicing. So as you can see, I'm going for my terminal. It's very simple thing to invoke. By the way, few cool things about terminal. First of all, you can zoom in. To zoom in on MacBook, you need to press Command plus. It will make it larger, the font larger. I know since this video is being recorded, we kind of want everyone to see what's going on. So I'll make this thing larger so that everyone can see it, okay? So I'm sure that it's large enough. Second thing is we can customize the view of it, the look of it, right? All I have to do is do the right click and select Show Inspector, and then I can create a cool, boom, I can create a matrix, kind of like a matrix style look, right? When I can type things. Again, as you can see, it's a command line tool. Certain things we need to learn, certain things we need to know how to do. Let's start with the first command we use for today, which is called pwd. So pwd prints working directory. So where are we at? Because again, this is the tool that doesn't have interface. So it means that we have to communicate with our machine, with our computer, by looking at the command line tool. So this is my current directory. Okay, now let's go and see what are the files do I have in this directory, and the command is ls. Boom. So these are the files in my directory, right? CD means change directory. For example, I have a directory that is called movies, right? Movies. Let's say I want to go there. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna say CD, so change directory, and then I will say move. But it's a pretty cool trick. So what this command line tool does is, for example, if you're not sure about the rest of the name of your path of your directory, what you can do, you can press a tab button and see what happens. Tab, boom. So when you press tab button on your computer, it automatically looks for a similar directory which you start typing on for the name, and then it basically completes the name. So it's a complete it's a completing tool that helps you navigate. It means that you don't have to like type movies. You just go M. Well, we have two M directories, movies and music. So if I go with MU and press tab, it's going with music. If I go with MO, press tab, it's going to go with movies. All right. So then I hit enter. And now I'm in a directory called movies. And then I can do ls and see there are no files. There are no files in the directory called movies. What else can we do? We can create a new directory, something that may come up during the interview. What is the command to create a new directory, this directory that we add? So the command is mkdir, which stands for make directory. And then we can press space, and we need to come up with the name of directory. So I don't know, let's go for, I want to create a directory that is called action, right? Like action movie. So I will come up with the name action and hit enter. Boom. So now when we go for the command which says ls, so list files, let's go. We have a directory that's called action. Isn't this cool? By the way, when we see that our list, our log is full, it's busy, it's too much interaction, I'll show you a pretty cool command which will help you to basically clear all your log or clear all your terminal. The command is clear, clear. See? Beautiful. Now we have an empty space. Now it's all taken care of. Now it's all beautiful. So we're still in a directory that is called movies. So again, ls action. Let's navigate to the directory action. Again, how do we do this? By using the command cd, change directory. So cd action. There we go. So you can see here, it shows that we switched to our directory called action. Now, what if we need to create a file, which is also a common thing that we need to do? Create new file, the command is go for touch. After the touch, we have to specify what kind of file we need to create. Let's say I want to create a text file, like a random text file, like my notes. So I will call it notes, and then I'll put the dot, and I'll provide the extension, which would be, well, assuming it's going to be txt, text format, okay? Now, let's check that it was actually created. We do ls command, and you can see it's here. Amazing. That's how it works. Now let's create let's create a new directory. So we'll go for mkdir, and let's create a directory that's called notes. We can check that it was created by typing ls. Yes, we have a directory called notes. We have a file called notes.txt. Now let's just copy. Let's copy a file that we have, which is notes.txt, into the folder, into our new directory. For that, I'll use the command cp, cp notes dot txt, so notes.txt, space into the notes. Yeah, let's try it and hit enter. Now let's CLS. Yes. So in order for us to check if we actually copy the file, which stands for notes, into our notes folder, we have to navigate to our folder. So what we're gonna use? We're gonna use CD again. Change directory, and we type notes. See, we're into the notes directory. Now we will do the ls. And as you can see, notes is in this directory. So we were successfully able to copy a file from our folder to directory. Let's try, for example, if you want to delete this file, remove this file. So we're going to go with rm, which stands for remove a file. And we will provide a name of our file, notes.txt. Let's check ls, list files. See, there are no files. Boom, beautiful, simple deletion that we were, that took us literally a second to create. Now let's clear all our mess here. We have a beautiful empty space. And now we will check for a final command, which is called MAN, which stands for manual. So manual, it's basically says, because all these commands we used, those are little programs, and each of these programs has their own settings and additions and little small things that you need to be aware of. So MAN command, which is unique to Unix based systems, basically says manual. So if, let's say, I want to come up and I want to read the manual for this specific command, how would I do this? The command is MAN, manual. And then let's say I put a space and I want to see a manual for a command which says, I don't know, touch. And then I click enter, and then boom, I am presented with a huge amount of flags, huge amount of things that I can do with this specific command. Looks complicated, like, do we need to know this? Nah, not really, but it's a cool thing, that something you will know in order to impress a hiring manager and so on. By the way, in order to exit this manual, you need to press letter Q. Goes back to where we came from. All right, so let me go back to my presentation. Things that they seem to be complex, in reality, they aren't. They're very straightforward. And quality assurance engineers need to know to a minimum things like Unix commands. It is always a good thing if you know those things. So something that you can practice, something you can come up with during the interview. And it's something that we want you to overall get a hands-on experience on. So what I will request from you, first of all, practice Unix commands online. After you go to this slide, you will be able to navigate to this particular tool. So the one that's called virtual Unix environment, you will essentially end up here. And it looks busy and complicated. In reality, we don't really care about most of those things. Something we can close here. What we care about is shell interface. Let me try to zoom in. Try to zoom in here. All right, zooms in. Not too much. So this is the virtual environment which you can work with um, practicing your Unix commands. For example, let's try a command calling cd, right? So we're in our home directory, ls. ls. So let's try creating directory, mkdir, aaa, something. Let's try see if it created. Yes, you can see there are created. There's a folder that you just created. So you can go cd aaa, right? You can see you're in this directory. ls, there are no files. You can say touch, whatever, and then we can create whatever, some file, right? And now there's the file. So you can practice Unix commands, bash commands without even installing anything, just by using your browser. And all the information to practice this is in this presentation, is in this lesson. So let me get back to it. So again, practice Unix commands online. You have your environment. If you want to practice using your computer, let's say you have a MacBook, you want to practice your MacBook. You have, if let's say you have a Mac OS Catalina and above, you need to switch to Bash profile. So Bash is a shell. Shell, it's sort of like it's a version of an interpreter. So by default, MacBook computers do not come with the Bash as a default interpretation of Unix commands. So they are different. They come with a shell that is called ZSH. But we encourage you to practice switching. So there are instructions that will take you to documentation that will help you to switch. But in reality, even if you have a MacBook, you can just practice by using virtual Unix environment, the website that it's here. So what's important is in this presentation, you will have a list of most common Unix commands. Guys, you will need to learn it. You will need to learn it and memorize it and practice it. It's not that long, it's not that hard. It's like one page of commands. And it's going to be easy to remember when you will practice it, when you will actually do this. The ways of practicing it, I already explained. So your homework task is to study Unix commands and practice. You must learn and memorize all the commands from this list because they may come up during the interview. So when you're going to practice, try creating, updating, renaming, deleting directory, creating, renaming, moving, deleting a file, browsing, searching directory for files, whatever. So after that, it's going to be easy for you, and it will be easy for you to just come up with those answers. Again, Unix commands as itself, as Unix is really, really complicated. Unix administrators, it's a separate job. We don't really need to learn this because we only will touch basics when, even if we will learn this, and even if we will touch this at our work, but this may come up during our interview. So please spend a few hours teaching, learning these things and practicing those things. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation.